Hello everybody, how you doing? Welcome, my lovers of spooky things, strange things, weird and wonderful things, my lovers of all things mysterious. This video might be a bit long, but it's going to be a doozy. I think there might be some videos out there already, but I have never seen them before. I don't even know about it, so I'm thinking if I haven't heard about it, maybe some of you haven't heard about it too. I thought it was fascinating and sad. It's quite sad. I apologise for the noise of my children. I know some of you that regularly watch my stuff are used to it, but it's worse now because it's half term and they're running around and they're jumping and shouting and playing with each other. So, I always had a mum, that's what happens. I don't have a separate really filming area. They're just being told to go upstairs and play. So they keep running up and downstairs just for the fun of it. But anyway, welcome to another episode of Mysterious. On April 18th, 1943, right in the height of World War II, there was a group of 4 boys. Now, obviously this was when rationing was around and food was scarce and they were hungry, so they thought they'd maybe do a bit of poaching, a bit of hunting, seeing what extra food they could find and provide for their families. So they decided they would go into Hagley Wood in Birmingham and see if they could maybe find some birds or some eggs. Now, Bob Farmer spotted a wych elm and he thought, this looks like quite a promising site. And he went up to the wych elm, reached inside to see if there was any nest and see if he can feel some birds, and he felt something. And at first he was, oh, this could be something good. And then he pulled it out. And that excitement of maybe finding some dinner turned to terror as he had pulled out a skull. A human skull that still had parts of its hair attached to it. Now, he quickly put the skull back in the wych elm and they skedaddled. They were absolutely petrified, poor things. And because that they had been poaching and trespassing and all sorts, they swore themselves to secrecy and to not let anyone know, especially not the police, because they had that fear on their mind as well as the fear of finding a human skull. Excuse me, tickling nose. Now, time went by, but it was playing heavily on their minds. And the youngest of the 4 boys, Tom Willits, couldn't bear it anymore, and he told his family. His parents, being good parents, because some people might not believe you, they believed you and rung the police. The police, being quite dutiful, did go and look to see if they could find it. And from that point on, Hagley Wood became a bustling crime scene. Now, when the police went to find or look for the skull that the boys said they found, they not only found a skull, but they found an entire female skeleton. I say entire, but this isn't true because one of the skeleton's hands had been severed, and on further investigation, they found that all the finger bones had been scattered all the way around the elm tree. Yeah, the wych elm tree. So they brought in a local ME, James Webster, who went to the scene, investigated, and deduced that obviously she was a female, that she was around 35 when she died. She had light brown hair, which they could tell from her skull, the bits that were still left, and that she had had a child at one point in her life. That they found also, there was cheap costume jewellery, there was fragments of clothes, a shoe, and the police did draw a sketch of sort of roughly the height and what she could have been like, and the clothes scraps that they found, so how the clothes could have looked, and circulated this all around. And she had quite an overbite. She had quite sort of bucky front teeth that sort of overlapped and stuck out a bit. So, they thought this is quite a good identifying feature. Now, the ME deduced that for her to be in the trunk of the Wych Elm, the ME deduced that for her to have been inside the trunk of the Wych Elm, she would have had to have been put in there when she was still warm, because once rigour had set in, they would not have been able to fold her into that position to get her in there. They also deduced that she had passed roughly around 18 months prior, so they were putting it around October 1941. Now, obviously, even though, she's a skeleton, they did an autopsy and they found a piece of taffeta lodged in the back of her throat. Now, that could have only been placed there if she had been suffocated. So she was suffocated, or maybe she had it in her mouth to keep her from screaming, and that asphyxiated her. But that proved to them that it wasn't some strange accident. She hadn't accidentally fallen in there. You're not going to fall in and accidentally stuff a piece of taffeta on your throat, are you? Oh, no, 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 no. No, 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 no. So, the identification and trying to find out who she was began. And as I said, they thought, prominent teeth. Okay, we'll go with dental records. And back in those days, obviously, it was a painstaking event trying to find all the dental records and go through everything and everyone who, went to the dentist. And of course, some dental records were just missing. They just weren't around. And these lack of dental records started the old rumour mill. The speculation circus is starting on who was the woman in the Wych Elm. Now, a few months after they found, well, I say a few months, but a few months after they found her, around December 1943, graffiti started appearing around the area, and someone was writing on walls, "Who put Lullabella down the Wych Elm?" And then after this one, it was Hagley Wood. And then they carried on doing it, and they simplified their message, and it simply became, and this graffiti carries on to this day, people still write, "Who put Bella down the Wych Elm?" Now, the police deduced that the person who was writing the graffiti in 1943 was all written by the same person. So it was either a sick joke, or the person writing it knew more than what they were willing to tell the police. But they knew something and they kind of wanted to get it out there. Now, because obviously they've given her the name now of Bella, the police then went through every missing person's record they could find with someone named Bella. Now, this went on for a while, and soon sort of leads went cold, like they do. And apart from the graffiti, there wasn't a lot more they could actually physically do. But this didn't stop, again, the speculations and the rumour mill. And a few years after the discovery, a folklorist professor named Margaret Murray, now she, I think, came to this theory because Hagley Wood has an aura and it has a name for itself of being a spooky area. It's known for the meeting places of covens, witchy goings on, occult happenings. So there's a lot tied up to it. Now, the reputation of Hagley Wood gave a folklorist professor of Margaret Murray the theory that Bella was a witch and that she belonged to a coven and that she had done something wrong And after a witch trial, she was slayed by her coven. Now, she thought this because of, obviously, the severed hand. Now, there is an occult ritual called the Hands of Glory. And with the bones being scattered all the way around the elm tree, she was like, yeah, I think this is what happened. She was a witch. She betrayed her coven, or they weren't happy. And as such, she was slain. The police didn't put much credence into this and thought, well, there's nothing really to say that this had happened. A lot of the times, when people do the Hands of Glory, it's a hand that's been taken from someone who's been killed at the gallows, and obviously Bella hadn't been. So you're like, well, we don't really put much into this. But, of course, the stories didn't stop there. There was stories that she was a sex worker. Now, there had been a prostitute called Bella who had worked the streets around the area. I'm not sure if she went missing or no. But some say that, yes, she was a sex worker. She was killed by her own peers over some kind of dispute, maybe who worked the area or something like that. Then there was the rumour that said that she was a barmaid and that she was killed by an American soldier. Now, ones that could have a little bit more credence, perhaps, are the ones that say that she was a German spy. Now, some say she was a German spy called Clara Buell. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. And she was a German actress and a singer, and she was obviously sort of groomed by the Third Reich and became a spy. Now, she was dating a Joseph Jacobs. Now, he was a spy, and he helped in her recruitment. And Jacobs had parachuted into the area in 1941. Now, as he parachuted in, he broke his ankle, so he couldn't get away. And he was obviously captured. I think he was one of the last people to be imprisoned in the Tower of London, and eventually was shot by firing squad. Now, at the time, they searched his wallet and they found a picture of the actress Clara in his wallet. So they thought this could be the lead. You know, it could be that she was this Clara and she was a spy. But they did their due diligence and they looked it up, and they found out that Clara was actually 6 foot tall, whereas our Bella in the tree was only 5 foot. And she died in a Berlin hospital. So again, everything's gone cold. Now, 12 years of this going on and all these rumours circulating, another person came forward to put their little theory. Now, this was a woman, a wife of an RAF pilot, Jack Mossip. Now, the wife says that Jack was out drinking with his Dutch friend Van Ralt, and they came across a very drunken Bella. And being the good Samaritans that they are, they decided to pick up Bella, put her in the car, and teach her a lesson for being so immoral and bad. Like you do, like any sane, God-fearing, good person would bloody do. You take a poor woman who's inebriated, she's had a good night out, you take her and you think, we'll teach her a lesson. And she said that what they did was they put her in the trunk of the Wych Elm, so she could sleep it out, learn a lesson, and not be so goddamn immoral to go drinking and maybe selling herself to make some bloody money because there's a war on. But then apparently she got up when she slept it off, couldn't get out of the trunk, and perished because they didn't come forward and say what they'd done and that she was in there. Now, obviously, that story is flawed because how did the taffeta get in her throat? She didn't sit there and swallow taffeta. It wasn't inside the tree and she swallowed it when she went in. So that story would be a load of crock. But then she said, there was another theory there, that they were drinking and they were with Bella. But it was the Dutch friend Van Volt that had killed her when they discovered that she was a German spy and had stuffed her in the tree. Now, the police, they weren't happy with this. The taffeta, they were mentioning the taffeta. The woman, they think, had grievances with her husband. It was 12 years after the fact, so why didn't you come forward sooner if you knew about it? Maybe if you'd learnt about it, why didn't you come forward before? You could have saved the poor girl. And then there was the fact that the husband had died long ago, so he couldn't even, clear his name or give any weight to the story. So once again, it all just went cold. Now, backtracking a little bit, why some people still think that it was an occult thing or a witch thing is the whole symbolism of it too. Not just the fact that Hagley Wood is this whole mystical, coven, witchy area, but the whole, everything is deeply reliant on symbolism in the story. Wych Elm itself is a tree that is used in black magic and some witchy spells and activities. The fact that people calling her Bella, and they started saying that Belladonna is obviously a poisonous flower that is again used and mentioned in different spells and things, and they thought maybe it was like a sort of code for the witchiness, that it was Bella in the Wych Elm. And then this was heightened again by the fact that in 1945 a man called Charles Walton was murdered on nearby Mean Hill. Now, when they found his body, they found that he was skewered to the ground with a pitchfork. Nice. And this did scream occultism. Some weren't even saying witchcraft, they were saying Satanism. There's some Satanism, occults going on, and they're killing people. And when police went to talk to people about it, they were very tight-lipped, they wouldn't say anything. I don't think that the police were very interested in any of the dark stories. I don't think they wanted, whether it was against their principles, whether they just didn't want to believe it, whether they just thought it was too cloak and dagger. I don't know. A lot of people think that it was an MI5 thing anyway, because it was all linked up with spies and they didn't want people to know, so they hid it up with this whole, it's witchcraft, baby. But yeah, it all went cold and no one knows what had happened. There have been several books theorising what had happened, who she was. They did try and find her DNA to see if they could find out who she was, but they gave her skeleton, I believe, to a medical school, but it went missing. And now I think some say she's been buried, but her resting place or final resting place is unknown. In 2018, Caroline Wilkinson, the expert who did the, I can't remember what the word is, think, brain, think. It's not a reenactment, you idiot. It's, there's a word for it. Why can't I think of what it is? Alright, I won't say the word because I can't think of the bloody word. It's on tip of my tongue. Forgive me, fibro fog. It happens. I just can't. It's when they rebuild the face, or they remake the face usually offers skulls, or like 3D models of skulls, like they did with Richard III, so you can get the bone structure. Then from there you can work out the muscle and the fat and all that. But as Ross would say in Friends, this bit is all a load of conjecture, because you can't really without a skull. And this is where it gets juicy as well. She was going to do, like she did with Richard III, etc., use the skull to make a proper detailed modelling of what Bella looked like. But the skull was gone. They looked in the records on different police stations, ones that sort of merged and mixed, and it's gone. The skull has effed off. It's like it walked off on its own. It grew legs. Take that what you will. Spookiness, cover-ups, who knows? But the skull is gone. So all she had to work on was the dental records, I suppose faces of the 40s, what the average face was, you know, all that stuff, and the brown hair and the little police sketches, which they couldn't really sketch because it was just, that was conjecture as well. It's just, this is a woman, this is what she would have worn, that sort of stuff. But she came up with a face using that of what they think she is. Now, as they said, a lot of the people that would have known her are going to be dead. But you'd think that somewhere out there, someone has old family photos, has got albums that they can look through and go, well, actually, that was my great-gran, or that was my great-great-aunt Judith, or something. But it's like, she never existed, she never was. What happened to the child? The child that the ME believed that this woman had had? It's all very, very sad. It's mysterious. It's unsolved. One of the sad things is as well that if those boys hadn't gone looking for eggs to make extra food and that for their family, she could have been in that tree for decades, maybe more, and no one would have found her. No one would be thinking about her. So, yeah, that is the story of who put Bella in the Wych Elm. And as I said, people today still put up the graffiti and the signs. Now, these people are not going to be the people, obviously, unless there is a family out there that keeps it going and knows more about it, but they don't ever say. It's like a family secret. But either way, whether or not her name was Bella, she will be remembered and her story will live on, the woman in the Wych Elm. But how sad. No one knowing who you are. No one really knowing how you met your fate. And even if you were a German spy, what a way to end up. Very sad. Poor Bella. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed looking it up. It was very sad but very, very interesting. What more can I say? Sorry that my brain fog gets in the way and I just can't remember those damn words. They just trip up on my tongue and they're gone. Like a haze of ness that I don't know what's going on. But if you like this, thumbs up. Hit the ding-a-ling so you can see more of when we do our little episodes. Subscribe. Thanks for hanging out with me. As always, you are very, very much appreciated. Loves ya. Have a brilliant day. Don't let anyone stuff you down no bloody trees. Bye!